Good everyone, good morning. Shavua Tov. We are continuing back to what we started before Purim, the halachot of Rabbi Shalom Asas from the Sefer Shemush Again. It's a big one, morning. So we are in Siman Yutet, and he brings up two different halachot here. The first is the following case. So we know it says in the Torah, Lo tevashel gedi b'chalev imo. You're not allowed to cook meat and milk, basically. But it says it 3 times in the Torah. So the 3 times tells us that a person is not allowed to cook it, a person is not allowed to eat it, and a person is not allowed to benefit from it. Whereas, as we talked about this in the Halachot of Pesach, that you are allowed to benefit from other non-kosher. Like we said, if your fish food on Pesach, if it's chametz, you could use shrimp or bloodworms, where it's asur for you to eat it. You think like, oh my gosh, that's crazy. Why am I bringing this into my house? It's asur to eat it, but you're allowed to benefit from it. Whereas there's 3 things that not only is it asur to eat, but it's asur to benefit from, and that is chametz on Pesach, non-kosher wine, and milk and meat. So he has a discussion here. What about non-kosher fats? So we said that there's, in every animal, there's chelev in the back part of the animal, which is types of fats that are not just not kosher, but it's meant for the Bet HaMikdash. I mean, it's so kosher that it's not really meant for us, it's for Hashem. So we can't eat it. So the shuman, which is kosher fats, chelev is not kosher fats. So he has a discussion. What if a person cooks chelev with chalav? Chelev with chalav. These non-kosher fats with milk. And by the way, when the Torah says, Lo tevashel gedi b'chalev imo, chalev imo is with milk. Now, it doesn't say nekudot in the Torah. It doesn't say nekudot. Maybe it means Lo tevashel gedi b'chelev imo, with the fats of the mother. So that we know is we have a Mesorah, we have a tradition from Moshe Rabbeinu how to read the Torah properly. And therefore, that's the tradition. How we read the Torah properly, we see it right there, that the nekudot and the ta'amim is part of the Mesorah as well. So here's a discussion. If you cook non-kosher fats with milk, is that the violation of milk and meat that now you're not allowed to benefit from it? So there's another discussion that goes as follows. Let's say you have non-kosher meat, pig, and I put with cheese, and a person, God forbid, eats it. Did he violated not eating pig? Did he violate also milk and meat? So in general, the psak is no, he did not violate milk and meat, because it's not considered meat. The meat that it has to be considered is kosher meat with kosher cheese put together. That's the violation of basar v'chalav. But non-kosher meat, it's already non-kosher. So you can't add more things to it. Okay, so here also, chelev is already also non-kosher. So therefore he says, actually the Rambam writes that if you have chelev and dairy together, it's not an additional violation, and you could benefit from it. You just can't eat it. You could benefit from it. But Rabbi Shalom Asasi brings many Rishonim. He's of the opinion that chelev is different, because we mentioned that it's like so kosher that it just doesn't go on the Bet HaMikdash. We can't eat it. But chelev and chalav together would be a violation of milk and meat. And he says that therefore you can't benefit from such things. Where something like this would come into play, maybe, he doesn't bring this down, but there was a time where there were certain candles that were made out of chelev, that was made out of those fats. And there's a discussion, can you benefit from it or not? So chelev on its own, you could benefit from. You just can't eat it. But chelev with chalav, I don't know if there are dairy candles or dairy, but if this situation will come up, you also can't benefit from it.
What about fish?
Fish and what? Fish and dairy?
No. And cheese. Like
Fish and cheese. Okay, going a little off topic, but fish and cheese, we see many Ashkenazim, they have bagels and lox, the lox and cream cheese. That's a big staple. If you take that away from them, then it's done, right? It's zero. They might as well take off their kippah. They might as well take off everything, right? So fish and cheese. Basically, fish and cheese is, the Bet Yosef writes in one place, it's asur to eat fish and dairy, like I'm going to write in the Shulchan Aruch over here. You open the Shulchan Aruch over there, it talks about eating fish and meat. So that's the only place where he says fish and dairy, And he references it to over here in the Shulchan Aruch, and there it's fish and meat. Therefore, everyone says it's a mistake. It's a mistake. They blame the mistake on the printer. Back in the day, printers, they had to take each letter and put it into like a thing and then stamp print. They said the printer, bilbel basar bechalav. He mixed up milk and meat. Instead of writing meat, he wrote milk. Dag v'basar is what's asur together. Dag v'chalav is allowed. So everybody looks at it as a mistake. Rabbi Ovadia Yosef. So all the Ashkenazim poskim says it's Taut Sofer, fish and dairy is okay. And therefore developed the cream cheese and lox from there. Rabbi Ovadia Yosef was every word that the Bet Yosef of Yosef Karo wrote is like holy of the holies. And therefore he says it came out of his mouth, it came out of his scribe, and therefore Rabbi Ovadia Yosef would say no fish and dairy together. One after the other, okay, no fish and dairy together. The Rambam, the great Rambam, who's a dietitian, the diet, etc., does not talk about this. Therefore, says it's okay. And Rabbi Shalom Asas, he writes in a different place. He says, if someone asks me, is fish and dairy allowed? I'll tell them beramkol with a speakerphone. It's allowed. If you want to be strict on it, okay, fine. But it is allowed. Speaking to Rabbi Yasai actually about this, he told me that he eats cold fish and cheese. He says hot fish and cheese he doesn't eat because he says that in Morocco there was never such dishes of fish and cheese dished together. So he says that we didn't have this type of dish, so he just refrains from eating it hot, but cold he eats it together. And I personally don't eat it together. I eat it one right after the other. Why not? What do I have to? My only thing I'm missing maybe is the tuna melt. That it's a nice thing, nice and hot together. I'm not such a lox and cream cheese guy. And I have it on the same plate. I eat one after the other, usually with a drink in between, and that's it. Rav Yosef would say the same thing. You could have it on the same plate, one after the other, but just not together. And all Ashkenazim, it's totally fine. We're good? Chazaku Baruch. So we have the unfortunate, not yet. We have the unfortunate announcement that the mother of Eli Maman passed away last night, and the levaya is today at 2 p.m. at Steele's Chapel. Of course, she was the sister, Mrs. Margot Maman Ada Shalom, also sister of Mr. Gabi Azriel, Jack Azriel, Albert Beber, and Mrs. Rachel Contier. So the mitzvah is going to be at 2 p.m. today. The tefillot it looks like it's going to be here. Tonight's mincha is at 6:45, and the shiva information is going to be posted in the chat. שנשמע בשורות טובות בעזרת השם. תנא דרעי אליהו. כל השומע הלכות וכל יום מובטח לו. שוב